Taboo and Secrecy: Incest and Sexual Abuse of Children in Iran by Kameel Ahmady and colleagues. Introduction. One of the most painful forms of violence in the family is child abuse and sexual violence. Sexual abuse of children by relatives occurs in a conducive environment and turns the abused into an accessible victim for the abusers. The sanctification of the family institution in Iranian society due to the dominant religious ideology and Sharia laws has prevented the disclosure and transparency of unethical issues within this institution. For the same conservative and secretive reasoning, child sexual abuse by relatives is denied, and thus the cycle of rape and violence against children continues. This research was conducted using a qualitative methodology and grounded theory. The study population consisted of all individuals with experience of sexual abuse during childhood. The sample size was 452, and sampling was done through snowball and purposeful methods.
Child sexual abuse by relatives. According to the structuralist theory in anthropology, the family social system has an inherent order fundamentally based on the sexual taboo of no incest. But in some cases, this cultural order turns against itself, and encountering relatives leads to the violent suppression of individuality, exclusion, sexual abuse, honor killings, etc. One of the most common of these is violence against children. Especially the most painful form of sexual violence, rape and abuse of power, and domination over helpless and powerless children to fulfill sexual desires in the form of violating the body and existential integrity of the child within the family. Given the culture and beliefs of each society, this act brings about profound physical and psychological consequences, especially in the child's subsequent developmental stages.
Incest in Iranian society. In Iranian society, children who are sexually abused are often subjected to various negative moral labels. The abused person is seen not as an ordinary or even a victim, but sometimes as deviant and careless. By stigmatizing them, they are abused again. Exclusion of the abused child prevents the formation of voluntary supportive and rehabilitative services by governmental and non-governmental entities towards victims. Meanwhile, due to its ideological nature, the Iranian government does not allow sexual education in the schools or other educational systems. This is contrary to what exists in many other countries and is recognized by international documents. Besides promoting children's awareness about sexuality, sexual education teaches self-care methods and techniques. Lack of education, skill, and awareness make children vulnerable to sexual abuse.
Backgrounds, causes, and factors. The backgrounds, factors, and consequences involved in child sexual abuse operate within an intricate network of economic, social, and legal cycles. The main findings of this research indicate that the most important causes of child sexual abuse are poverty and deprivation, dysfunctional families, ineffectiveness of institutions in providing sexual education and support, lack of a clear and transparent law, and contradictions in existing laws.
Consequences. The consequences of sexual violence against children by relatives can be classified into three categories: structural consequences such as weakened social capitals, intermediate consequences such as family and education crises, and individual consequences such as behavioral and psychological disorders.
Some field data from the research. The distribution of respondents by age is shown in the image. The changes in respondents' psychological and behavioral conditions after experiencing sexual abuse are shown in the image. The distribution of respondents according to the number and relation with abusers is shown in the image. The contextual GT model of sexual violence against children in families is shown in the image.
An excerpt from field interviews. A 49-year-old housewife said, "Now that I'm under treatment and counseling, and have talked about it before, I can talk to you about it too. I slept with my son and daughter for years. We all know a mother should not do this, and I'm not making excuses or justifying it or fooling myself with Freudian theories. But I've always had a high sex drive, and back then, my husband was at front for years. I think it was better in that closed atmosphere of the time to satisfy myself with my own kids than to go out on the streets. I mostly slept with my son because he had a penis, which was better for me, but I also touched my daughter and asked her to finger me until I finished.
Some solutions: creating the ground for education, awareness, and enlightenment among children and society. Urgent reform of laws regarding protection of abused children and families. Efforts to reduce the gap between Sharia and Islamic laws and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Effective organic coordination between schools, law, medicine, and social work. Removing ambiguity in categorizing children and adolescents. Clarifying and critiquing gendered approaches in legal discourse and separating it from Sharia discourse. Increasing the legal age of child marriage.
The free and online version of this book is now available on Kameel Ahmady's personal website, as well as on Google Play, Google Books, and Amazon platforms.